Renata, can you send him his link? Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining TÜVSÜD's complimentary webinar titled Changes in the 6th Edition Rules of IATF 16949 and What It Means for Your Certification, presented by Naveen Jayakumar, Regional Trainer and Lead Auditor for IATF 16949 at TÜVSÜD. And today also we have Alex Song, Product Performance Manager Mobility at TÜVSÜD Americas, who will join us at the end for the Q&A portion of today's session. Before we begin the presentation today, we have a few housekeeping rules. If you or someone you know is having connection issues, please connect through LAN instead of Wi-Fi for a better connectivity. Also, please view this webinar through the recommended browsers of either Chrome, Edge, or Firefox if available. All participants today are muted to avoid any background noise during the webinar. And there may be a time lag between slides. If you are having a problem, please mention this in the chat window. And the chat is the fourth button on the bottom of the screen that you see. For today's Q&A session, please submit your questions via the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, the fifth tab over. And at the end of today's session, there will be a short survey, and please stay on a few minutes to answer these short survey questions. We truly appreciate your comments and feedback. Now let me introduce TÜVSÜD as well as our session today. TÜVSÜD is world-renowned for providing international testing, assessment, training, and certification services for over 150 years, with offices in over 1,000 locations in 50 countries and represented by over 28,000 employees. As a global leader in management system certification, validation, and verification audits, TÜVSÜD's extensive industry experience and expertise elevate the management systems of our clients through our unique approach to audits. TÜVSÜD assists companies of all sizes with a tailored audit approach specific to your company size and industry. We can support you with various ISO-based system standards, as well as cybersecurity initiatives, customized audit solutions, and of course, assisting your company with IATF 16949 6th edition rules. If you are looking for a trusted, globally recognized provider that's responsive to assist with your company's transformation and certification needs, TÜVSÜD is your partner. Now a little bit about our session today. The International Automotive Task Force, IATF, has representatives from almost all vehicle manufacturers, suppliers, and automotive trade associations. IATF 16949 2016, in conjunction with ISO 9001 2015, defines the quality management system requirements for the design and development, production, and when relevant, installation of automotive-related products. During today's complimentary session, you will learn more about the 6th edition rules changes and the general benefits of IATF 16949 to help strengthen and clarify various processes, approaches, and OEM requirements. Examples of 6th edition rule changes include IATF eligibility, audit time, and the site extension criteria. This update to the IATF 169 6th edition rules provides organizations of all sizes with access to an efficient management tool that brings quality and continual improvement into the heart of your business in the automotive industry. Today's session will be recorded, and the on-demand replay will be available soon after the event. And now I would like to turn it over to our featured speaker, Naveen. Naveen, welcome to today's session, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much for the brief introduction. So, hello and welcome to the session. And my name is Naveen Jayakumar. So, I'm the lead auditor and regional trainer for TÜVSÜD Americas. And part of my job is to train auditors and update the requirements within our system, and also liaise with our head office in Munich, Germany. So it is my pleasure to walk you through today's session. We are going to talk about the transition from IATF Rules 5 to Rule 6. So let me move on to the next slides. We are going to talk about eligibility for IATF certification, audit and certification requirements, audit durations, audit planning and process, relocation audits, audit types, challenges, and what we are going to look forward in the future. So, the main objective of this discussion is to emphasize the intent of IATF certification and expectation from organizations. To carry forward these changes and related expectations to clients to join hands in successful implementation of the revised version of rules. So, if we look backward, until 2016, we had previous versions of the IATF rules. And in 2016, we had the Rules 5, which is Revision 5, which got revised by the third quarter of this year. So we would have received, or you would have received, or you would have got a kind of IATF rules, either in a soft or hard copies. So that was rolled out way back in Q3 this year, and then it is expected to be rolled out from the 1st of January 2025, which means that it is expected to get implemented from the 1st of January 2025. So the IATF rules has 9 chapters as contents. So if you see chapter 1 to 9, it talks about eligibility of certification for IATF 16949, certification body governances, internal control and risk management, certification body legal contract requirements with the client, personal resource requirements management, audit and certification requirements, application and basic audit types, other audit types and remote auditing, decertification process, and records required for the certification body. So today we are going to focus on 3 important topics which are under chapter 5, 6, and 7. So we are going to discuss about that. I'm going to walk you through the flavor. I'm going to give you a flavor how it looks like. What are the major important changes that what we can expect from Rules 5 to Rule 6, and what as an organization, as a certified organization or to be certified organization, what needs to be addressed to get the system transferred from the Rules 5 to Rule 6. Right, so let us talk about the eligibility for certification. So any organizations that design or manufacture parts, processed materials, manufactured according to the automotive customer specification and integrated into vehicle during manufacture. It can be electrically connected or mechanically fitted in an automotive vehicle or an application. So, when we talk about this, we are also talking about how the parts are being processed. So they can be processed materials, or it can be kind of replacement parts and materials for automotive vehicles, including remanufactured parts. So these parts are expected to be manufactured according to the OEM specifications that are procured or released by the original equipment manufacturers and integrated into the automotive vehicles. So there are some important definitions that we should first understand. It is about what is an automotive vehicle. So any homologated vehicles driven on the road. So homologated, we do understand that homologation is something like an approval of a vehicle, a roadworthiness, or a vehicle that can be running in a road approved by any government regulatory authorities, right? So it is like an automotive vehicle is a homologated vehicles driven on road. An automotive customer is any organizations in the automotive supply chain purchasing automotive parts. So there are different types of suppliers. You talk about OEMs and tier 1 and tier 2, tier 3 and tier N. So any suppliers who are manufacturing are designing and manufacturing and selling that parts to an automotive industries are called as automotive customers. Outsourcing portion of an organization's function or process performed by an external organization is called as outsourcing. For example, it could be a kind of plating, or it could be a kind of a painting process, heat treatment. So if you're going to send some of the parts outside, then we know that it's called outsourcing. And process materials, outputs of a process, it can be either solid, liquid, or gaseous, or it can be a kind of combined source of both or all the three, solid, liquid, and gas, measured in terms of weight, volume, and linear meters, and delivered in bulk systems, such as in drums. Like, for example, if a gaseous substance has been delivered, it comes in bulk, or if you're going to send a roll of steel, it comes in bulk. So these are some of the definitions of a process materials. And replacement parts and materials including service, aftermarket, and remanufactured parts and materials used for repair and maintenance service on an automotive vehicle. So here we need to take note, aftermarket is one of the interesting part that has been included in this rules 6. So aftermarket parts, the manufacturers of as on today, the manufacturers of aftermarket parts are also eligible to go for IATF certifications. But there might be a lot of changes. Maybe we can expect a lot of changes coming in through sanctioned interpretations or frequently asked questions. So as of now, this is what it's been defined in the IATF rules. Remote support locations is a client location with functions that support one or more than one manufacturing sites. Or such remote locations, if it has been carried out at the customer premises, are called or termed as servicing. So this is also a new terminology which has been included in the IATF rules. So servicing is something like, if let us say that we are doing a kind of sequencing activity. We go to the OEM, we go to the customer's place, and then we have a group of people who, from our organizations, they go to the customer's place and they try to, they are being deployed at that place to do the servicing activity, to do the sequencing activity. In that case, that term is called as servicing. Right. So some of the certification structure eligibility, you can see there is a single site certifications, and then we will understand what is a single site with extended manufacturing site. And then there is another scheme which is called as corporate scheme, right? So the single site is as simple as it is just one manufacturing location. It can have different remote locations. It can have a standalone remote location. For example, it can have a design office at a separate place, and then there is a manufacturing site. So this structure is called as a single site certification. So what does it mean by single site with extended manufacturing site? This means extended manufacturing site to be connected to only one manufacturing site, which means that there are two buildings or two factories located nearby or a little bit far away from the locations, and then they do only a kind of manufacturing activity, and they don't have any other controls other than manufacturing. Means the main control is coming from the main building or the main factory. All the controls, the management team are sitting in the main factory. The extended manufacturing building or the site is a site which supports the main factory for some of the processes. Probably we are doing manufacturing activity of process 1, 2, 3 at the main site, and then 4, 5, 6 is being done at the extended manufacturing site. So these are termed as extended manufacturing site. But now it is interesting to note that there is a definition which has come out from the IATF Rule 6, which says that the extended manufacturing location should be or shall be within the maximum of 10 miles, or if you convert this into kilometers, to 16 kilometers, or 16 minutes of driving distance from the main manufacturing site from the extended manufacturing site. So you cannot exceed this rules. If it is going to exceed that, then the extended manufacturing site cannot be an EMS, it has to be a site by itself. And then there should be a single quality management system covering both the main site and the extended manufacturing site. And the extended manufacturing site or EMS must not be independent, must not have a separate QMS by itself. Management personnel may be present at the EMS provided they are responsible for both the activities in main site and the EMS, I mean extended manufacturing site. There can be non-manufacturing staffs present. It can be like kind of schedulers or maintenance staff or quality personals. They can be like they can stagger. They can be staggered. They can be both in the main site and also in the extended manufacturing site. They are common people, but the main controllers or the management team are controlling from the main manufacturing site. So these are some of the interesting definitions about an external manufacturing site. So what do we know about corporate scheme? So corporate scheme should at least have minimum 2 sites in the system, and then the process shall be centrally defined, structured, and controlled, and to be monitored with a common set of process measurements. Like some organizations might call it as KPIs, some might call it as objectives, some might call it as bowling chart, whatever it is. You have different KPIs, you have a set of KPIs. The targets can be differing from one site to other site, but the definitions has to be synchronized, and it has to be it's expected to be centrally controlled. The localization of the QMS documentations and records confined to the work instructions, procedures, and records is expected to be managed centrally through a QMS audit program. So central location that controls the QMS need not be in head office. It can be a separate location which is having a QMS structure. For example, they're controlling the documentation, they control the KPIs, they're controlling the internal audit management. But however, it need not be at the head office. It can be in a different office. So these is called as a corporate scheme structure of certification. Right. So some of the details about audit and certification requirements. So if you look into this particular diagram here, you see that the certification audit, last day of the certification audit, is the basis for further scheduling, which means that is the reference date. There is no changes from the previous rules, but just for an understanding, I have put it here. And then you see that the certificate with a maximum validity of 3 years. So any certificate has a validity 3 years, and there are two things. One is certification cycle, the other one is audit cycle, right? So it runs parallelly together. So audit cycle is 3 years, certification validity is 3 years. And surveillance audit, there is a change in the surveillance audit due date. So the surveillance audit will be held on regular basis, means minimum at least once in 12 months, which means once in a year. So the tolerance of the surveillance audit is +3 -3 months from the reference date or from the last day of the certification audit or the recertification audit. And then the recertification audit, after 3 years, the organizations need to get recertified, which means that the last day of the recertification audit is the basis of further scheduling for the next cycle of audit, which means the next 3 years. So the tolerance for the recertification audit is -3 months plus 0 days from the reference date, right? So there's no changes with respect to the recertification audit due days. But the surveillance audit due dates, if you remember the current rules 5 says that it is -3 plus 1 month. But now the rules has expanded. They give us more flexibility. It says that you can take a surveillance audit either -3 or in +3 months duration. So you can see this chart. It is very clear. I just made it more descriptive here. If you see the certification audit, let us say that it starts on the 3rd of June 2024. And then the next year, 2025, the audit can be taken any time between the 3rd of March 2025 until 3rd of September 2025. Subsequently, the second surveillance audit can be taken on between 3rd March of 2026 until 3rd September 2026. And then when we come back to the recertification audit, it's 3 months because you don't have the plus tolerance here. So you have to take this before 3rd of June 2027. Right. So some of the audits and certification requirements, as a summary, will be given the details in the later slides. So determination of audit days are as per the mandate calculation guideline and mandate tables, which has been given in the IATF rules 6. And total audit duration is equal to the audit days plus additional activity time. So what do we understand by additional activity time is nothing but it's a verification of actions on previous audit findings, change in scope, or if there is a performance targets not met according to the OEM specifications or OEM's requirements. In that case, these activities are called as additional activities. So you have an on-site audit durations, plus there will be an additional activity time which goes into the IATF database. So the time required for verification of each minor non-conformity is 30 minutes, which is 0.5 hours to 1 hour minimum. So that is clearly described in the IATF Rule 6. When a team of auditors are involved, like a group of auditors, more than one auditor, in that case, each auditor is expected to spend minimum 8 hours for every audit, which means that he or she has to audit at least one day or to be participating in the audit for one day. And that's how the rules is clearly mentioned about this. But if you talk about the rules 5, its minimum hours is 4 hours. An auditor can come for 4 hours and he or she can audit and go away. But now the rules is very clear. The minimum hours for each and every auditor should be 8 hours. In combined setup of automotive and non-automotive activities, if there is 100% of employees to be considered, that is the reasonable way of doing it. But in some organizations, there might be a kind of bifurcation, or you have a separate build-up area for producing the automotive parts. In that case, there are certain conditions specified in the rules 6. It says that the automotive related the operators or employees who are producing the automotive components should be separate. They cannot be a common people who are working for both non-automotive and automotive. They have to be separate. And then there should be a physical barrier separating the automotive and non-automotive facilities. And then dedicated employees, dedicated machines, instruments, etc. So if this requirements are being satisfied, then definitely an organization can apply for deduction factor using that. Okay, we are going to use only this portion of this organization for getting certified for IATF 16949. Right. So audit durations and determination is we are going to talk about the stage 1 audit, special audit, remote support locations, and corporate schemes. So when we talk about the stage 1 audit, so the audit days table does not indicate what could be the days required for a stage 1 audit. So the certification body has been given the privilege to define a process within them to determine the audit duration for stage 1 audit. So every certification body, they might come out with a process, a procedure, a calculation guideline saying that, okay, this is how we are going to calculate the duration for stage 1 audit. But there is a direct prescription which says that the stage 1 audit shall be between minimum 1.5 man days to maximum of 3 days. So the certification body can decide between that. So it might be different. It might be depending on how exactly how the organization looks like, how many employees are there, and so the stage 1 audit can be anywhere between 1.5 man days to 3 days. And every site will undergo stage 1 audit when starting fresh. We all know that. For a corporate scheme, the central locations from where the quality management system functions needs to be assessed or shall be assessed for initial readiness. That is something new from the rules 5 to rule 6, which says that duration will be minimum 0.5 days and maximum of 2 days. And this can be done physically or remotely, and this has to be performed prior to the stage 1 readiness of respective site or sites that are connected, which means that, let's say an organization is having a QMS structure or a QMS process which is controlling the corporate scheme management system. Okay, so this headquarters needs to be audited prior to the stage 1 audit in the site, and this needs to be assessed. This has to be, it has to undergo a kind of stage 1 audit, and this stage 1 audit consists of, it can happen within 4 hours to 2 days. So this audit can be conducted either remotely or it can be conducted on site. So this is a new requirement coming from Rule 6. So after this, then the site stage 1 audit will be conducted. So this is mandatory, and this has been clearly specified in Rule 6. Right. So if we look into this table, like there's like something like stage 1 and stage 2. So when you say stage 1, this, as what we discussed in the previous slides, the stage 1 duration is minimum 1.5 days to maximum of 3 days. And the stage 1 plan to be sent to the client 14 days in advance of the actual audit. And the stage 1 report will also go for a technical review by the certification body. And the stage 1 details and decisions will get updated in the IATF database, which means that now currently the practice is, according to the rules 5, once we complete the audit, the lead auditor recommends the organization to proceed to stage 2, and that gets updated, and then the stage 2 is already been declared. But now it is totally different from the rules 5 to 6. It says that stage 1 audit needs to be completed in the database, which means that the audit has to be approved by the technical committee and it has to be updated in the IATF database. So after that, the organizations are eligible to proceed to stage 2 audit. So if you look into the determination, if you look into the duration between a stage 1 and stage 2 audit, the stage 1 audit, after the stage 1 audit, the minimum days between a stage 1 and stage 2 is 20 days, 20 calendar days. And the maximum is 90 days, which does not have any changes from the rules 5 to rule 6. So now there is a minimum duration. If you would have heard, there are many organizations after completing the stage 1, they might request to go for a stage 2 immediately, maybe the day after the stage 1 or maybe a week after the stage 1. Now it is no more allowed, which means that minimum there should be a wait period of 20 days before proceeding to the stage 2 audit. And the maximum duration is 90 calendar days, which there is no change according to the current rule. So if it is going to exceed this tolerance of 90 days, then the organization is expected to repeat the stage 1 audit. Right? The stage 2 audit to start only after the stage 1 report gets cleared by the technical committee, by the CB, and then it gets updated in the IATF database. Right. So for a corporate scheme, the central location from where the quality management system functions will be assessed for initial readiness. Audit days will be minimum 0.5 days to maximum. That is what we discussed earlier. So that is something new. The duration is in addition to the stage 1 audit. So now currently we don't do it. What we do, we complete the stage 1 audit at the site. And then if there are any remote support locations or functions, that gets audited before the stage 2 audit. Now it is not like that. If there is a QMS system, because a QMS system is expected for a corporate structure IATF certification, right? So a QMS is already there, then that needs to get audited before the stage 1 audit at the site. And after that, we do a remote location audit, then we proceed to the stage 2 audit. Right. So as what we said about the special audit. So special audit is something like if there is a major non-conformity, the IATF rules directly specifies that minimum 1 hour to 3 hours to be allocated for verification of actions of each major non-conformity. Whereas now at the current rules, it does not have a prescription like that. It says that, okay, if there's a major non-conformity, let us say an organization has been put into special audit because of major non-conformity. In that case, the lead auditor on the audit team decides, okay, I'm going to audit 4 hours or 8 hours and to verify the implemented actions for the major non-conformities. Now it is not that case. The IATF rules has given the directives. It says that minimum it should be 1 hour to 3 hours for each major non-conformity to verify the implemented actions, and then it can be decided by the audit team based on the complexity of the finding, right? So it can be between anywhere between 1 to 3 hours. And then similarly for minor non-conformities, the directive says 30 minutes to 1 hour. So it has to be allocated for actions for each of the minor non-conformity. So minor non-conformity verification can happen either through a special audit, or it can happen during the next audit. Means that based on the additional time for the additional activity, this time will be included, and then the action implementation will be verified during the subsequent audits. Okay, so let us talk about a little bit idea about a single site with a standalone remote location. So based on the remote support location employee headcount to proportionate to the sites receiving support, considering all the sites. So which means that this calculation is based on the like how many hours we are going to spend in a remote support location is based on the criticality of the processes and number of employees who are working for that remote support locations. Let us say there are 14 processes in one organization. In that case, the distribution of the remote support organization would be increased. Probably it can be 8 days, 8 hours, or it can be 12 hours. It depends on the criticality of the processes, right? So in some organizations, there might be 3 processes which are supporting other organizations. So based on the criticality of the processes, the CB will decide how many hours that need to be contributed or to get audited at the remote support location. And the frequency and size and audit samples depends. So as all we know that the product design needs to be audited once in every 12 months and every year. And whereas other supporting processes like human resource, sales, contract review can be audited like alternative years, like once in 24 months. And the audit date duration is determined based on the site-specific employees and site-specific conditions, and consider applicable factors of reduction can be something like non-design, or it can be a corporate scheme reduction. But the maximum possible reduction is 30% put together. Like you cannot go beyond that. So the maximum possible reduction for any organizations can go only maximum up to 30%. So I have given some kind of split up here. If you see here, for example, if the organization does not have a design responsibility, they can go for a reduction of 15%. An upgrade from an ISO 9001 to an IATF certification, they can go for a maximum reduction of 30%, which means that they should be audited and under the same accreditation body. So when we talk about accreditation body, it can be under DAX or UCAS. So if they are being accredited under, if ISO has been audited under the same accreditation body, now they're going to go for the IATF and they're going to go based on the same accreditation body, then they are eligible to get a maximum reduction of 30%. Corporate scheme, let us say more than two sites. In that case, the maximum reduction is 15%. Upgrade from letter of conformance to certificate is 30%, and from first letter of conformance to the second letter of conformance, it is again 30%. So these are the split up that has been given in the IATF rules 6. But however, put together, like you cannot summarize, you cannot add everything here. So the maximum possible reduction for any organizations is only allowed to 30%. When opted for a new LOC, that means LOC to LOC, no stage 1 is required for the second LOC. As of now, it's like that. Like when we go to the second LOC, we again have to do the stage 1 audit. But now, when you go for the second LOC, there is no requirement. There is no stage 1 audit requirement. For initial certification following a certificate withdrawal, no stage 1 is required, and the audit days are equivalent to the recertification audit mandates. So if the certificate was withdrawn or expired or cancelled within the recent 12 months, in that case, again the organization is eligible to go for the next audit, but there is no requirement of stage 1. They can directly go to the stage 2 audit with the calculation of recertification audit mandates. Right, so supporting functions is while auditing a remote support locations, indirect support locations also must be included. Like indirect support locations is the remote of remote. For example, let us say there is a sales office and there is a satellite sales office. Some people are working, like, there might be a one-man office at some locations of the world, and then that person is reporting to this remote location. And that means that is termed or determined as a remote of remote. So that remote of remote also needs to be audited. However, indirect support locations will not affect or reflect in the site certificate, which means that the remote of remote, like let us say there are 500 satellite remote offices. So we cannot put all the 500 satellite offices in the certificate. So the main offices will be reflecting in the certificate, whereas the remote of remote will be audited, will be integrated, interfaced into the system, but however that won't get reflected in the certificate. Remote auditing of an indirect support location is possible. An audit program for support functions, like for example, product design, to be audited every 12 months, as what I told, it's plus minus 3 months. Non-design functions to be audited at least once every 24 months. I gave you some examples in the previous slides. Right. So let us talk about the audit planning phase. So audit dates to be confirmed with the client. This is more important. Now there's a very clear descriptions given in the Rule 6. So the audit dates to be confirmed with the client at least 90 days prior to the actual audit date, which means that 3 months before the actual audit, the audit dates has to be completed. That is the minimum requirement. So maximum is you can decide it 1 year before the next audit, right? So the details of any changes later must be maintained as a documented evidence. So after 3 months, if there is going to be any changes, for example, a scope or something like that, change in lines or production lines, so this has to be documented and kept as a documented evidence and needs to be updated in the IATF database thereafter. And process-based and risk-based audit plan and shall be prepared by a member of the audit team. The audit plan shall be sent minimum 14 days prior to the audit date. So that is a requirement. Automotive manufacturing processes must be needs to be run during the audit. Like in some cases, in my experience, I see some organizations say, okay, because there's a very low production, we are not running this line. Now it's not allowed. So if there is a scope of an audit and we say that there are, let us say, 4 processes, it is required that all the 4 processes needs to be witnessed during the audit. If it is not possible, that has to be communicated with the CB and the lead auditor, and the audit needs to be rescheduled whenever the production is happening. So the production is a must that needs to be witnessed during the audit. Client to submit the data. So for the client side, the client is expected to submit the data minimum 30 days prior to the audit, and then the submitted data to include details of the QMS consultancy obtained since the previous audit, and customer dissatisfaction incidents like special status notifications also needs to be included in the data. This has to reach the lead auditor and the certification body minimum 30 days before the actual audit. And the information provided shall also include any inclusion of new customers or any lost business or lost customers. That details also needs to be shared with the certification body. Changes to the customer specific requirements. If the client data is not received before the 30 days, then the audit needs to be rescheduled, and then the audit plan would be sent 14 days prior to the audit. So if maybe let us say the client is sharing the details like on the 29th day, or maybe on before or 31st day, in that case, or 32nd day, it is not possible. So 30 days is the minimum duration that the organization is expected to share. So if it's 31st or 30, because all the details needs to get updated in the IATF database. If you see there's a possible time lag, then in that case, the audit needs to be rescheduled. So some of the automotive process approaches which are being directed in the IATF rules. So the audit team is expected to follow the sequence and interaction mapping, and also access the questions and risks and opportunities, focus on process performance and targets, focus on processes that directly impact the customers. Manufacturing processes will be audited. All the manufacturing processes will be audited during the certification audit and the recertification audit. And during the surveillance audits, the shifts and processes can be sampled. So it is like that. I give a box here. Let's, for example, in process A, shift 1, 2, 3 is running in all the 3 shifts. During the certification and the recertification audit, all the 3 shifts needs to be sampled for this process. Whereas during the surveillance audit, let us say in the surveillance audit 1, this process will be sampled the first shift, and during the surveillance audit 2, this process will be sampled in shift 2 and 3, and shift 1 can be left off. So you need to we can split that. So that tolerance has been given here. And manufacturing audit to focus on operational controls, effectiveness, control plan, FEMAs, measurement system analysis, and statistical process controls. Outsourcing controls to be covered. That is also some of the new requirements from this rules chapter 6. So how the organization is controlling their outsourcing processes, and what are the kind of process controls established will be verified during the audit. And consider all level of personnel in auditing to decide the system effectiveness. So that is very natural and it's common. So every level of people, including operators, helpers, inspectors, managers, assistant managers, or vice presidents, everybody would be audited and interviewed during the audit. So this is some of the reporting mechanisms. So if you see that the audit report and NC management for major nonconformity, if you remember currently, as per the IATF rules 5, the organization is expected to send the containment action and the root cause and proposed actions for the corrective actions on or before the 20 calendar days. But now this has been minimized. So now the timeline is 15 days. So the implemented correction, implemented containment action and effectiveness, proposed systemic action plan based on the root cause analysis, and it needs to be or expected to be submitted within 15 calendar days from the closing meeting. And after submission, the audit team will verify, will validate the submitted actions. And if there are any feedbacks, they need to again send it back to the client. And the client has to respond with the corrections or changes in the previously submitted actions through the Kara JSON file. And that has to be submitted within 30 days from the last day of audit. So this timeline are to be monitored and will be monitored through the IATF database. And subsequently, for corrective actions, it is 60 calendar days. There's no changes in that. But the important changes here in the rule 6 here is, if the submitted evidence are not acceptable, the client needs to submit all the actions within 90 calendar days. You cannot exceed that 90 calendar days, right? So it is non-conformity management is 90 calendar days. And then on the 90 calendar days, acceptance or rejection of the submitted evidence or on-site verifications will happen. So this is 15, 60, 90 for the major non-conformity. And then for minor non-conformities, it's a similar same thing, but here the duration is 60 calendar days and 90 calendar days. So relocation audits are clients to inform certification body about decision to relocate site and remote support locations, and within 30 calendar days, 30 days of intimation from client, the certification body will assess the impact of the customer, certification structure, capability of QMS to continue, whether the organization is eligible to meet the IATF requirements or not. And then based on that, they will plan the activities to do a reassessment. So there are two types. The first one is where the situation that will lead to a stage 1 audit. So extended manufacturing site becoming an independent site can lead to a stage 1 audit. A remote support location becoming an independent site by itself can lead to a stage 1 audit. And then for relocation of standalone remote support locations or extended manufacturing site relocating into another site or into another extended manufacturing site, or a non-certified location becoming an extended manufacturing site, well, does not need a kind of stage 1 audit. Right, so audit types, we know that there's a stage 1. So stage 1 is to develop a stage 1 readiness plan according to the client, and then send the 14 days before we have to send the plan. And then the stage 1 consists of 2 different levels. So currently there is only one stage 1 audit, but now they have splitted this into stage 1, system and structure review and operation review. What is the system and structure review? Is verify the client certification structure, scope, manpower details, documented systems to suitability and adequacy. And then the assessment part 2 will talk about Gemba principles to ensure operational conditions. So there will be a Gemba walk to verify the site specific condition, to see that the scope asked are more relevant to the processes which have been handled in the shop floor or not. So that will be included in the stage 1 audit. So there are 2 types. One is the adequacy or the document review. The second one is the Gemba work and verify the processes in the shop floor. Stage 1 readiness review, the output can be a recommendation or rejection for the stage 2 audit, technical review within 15 days of the stage 1 closing meeting, and then okay to proceed for stage 2 or not okay to proceed will be given to a closing meeting. And the stage 1 readiness assessment decision, stage 1 to be repeated if the decision is not okay to proceed to stage 2, and limited stage 1 is possible subject to conditions. And stage 1 decisions will be updated in the IATF database as what we discussed earlier. Certification audit, as we told, minimum 20 days, maximum 90 days, it will happen between that time. Surveillance audit, tolerance +3, -3, recertification is just it's -3 with +0 days. Transfer audits can happen anytime, any point of the audit cycle. So timeline specified for communication with the existing CB and the new CB. Transfer audit days are always equivalent to the recertification audit if all the conditions are being acceptable. And audit deadlines and due dates to be adhered to, failing which will start from a stage 1 audit. Preconditions for transfer audits are clearly specified, and performance complaint from OEM, special status notification from OEM, verification of actions on major minor non-conformities. So verification of actions on 100% result incidents, verification of actions on withdrawal certificate, verification after leave. These are some of the conditions for a special audit. So there is something more interesting here. So for a remote audit, some of the remote functions are allowed to be audited remotely, which means like for example, after sales, process product design can be audited remotely. Sequencing and testing needs to audit on site. So, but allowed, this is only to be allowed during the surveillance audit, not during the certification audit or recertification audit, which means that for certification audit, all the processes, remote processes will be audited on site. But surveillance audit, some of these processes which are defined in Annexure 1 of the IATF Rule 6 are allowed to do remotely. Yeah. So these are some of changes, and special decertification audit can be happen because of the special status notification from OEMs, client intimation to certification body to analyze the situation on major non-conformity, and certificate suspension can happen between maximum 15 days. On-site verification of actions on performance complaints is maximum 90 days, and decision on reinstating the or suspending the certificate will also happen before this 90 calendar days. Right, this is just an example. An organization gives a contract, audit registered takes place 90 days before the actual audit. Audit planning means the organization is expected to send it within 30 days, then followed by 14 days, audit execution, and get the certified before 120 calendar days. Yeah, so this is all about the chapters, and then the IATF rules transition is expected to happen. Like the main intention here of this webinar is to give you some communication saying that the organization should get prepared for for transiting from rules 5 to rule 6, which means that Q4 is very critical. Starting from next month, there are 3 months where the organizations can implement this system, and then after that they start the auditing from 1st of January 2025. The rules 5 will be obsolete, and rule 6 will be in existence from 1st of January 2025, right? So before ending my session, I just want to give you some additional information. So we also have an academy, like TÜVSÜD Academy. So if you are interested for going for any kind of courses or any first or second party auditor trainings, you're always welcome. You can also approach our team there. You can see a QR code there. You can scan that QR code to learn more about that, right? So I'm just handing over this to Susan, who will take over for the Q&A session. Over to you, Susan. Thank you very much.
Okay, great job. Thank you, Naveen, for sharing your expertise on IATF 16949 and the new 6th edition rules. Great job today. Thank you so much. So we've had questions coming in for today's session. So let's start with, and we also have Alex who will join and help address questions. Welcome, Alex. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
So the first question we have is with IATF 16949. Are the 6th edition rules different in the Americas versus other parts of the world?
Okay, thanks, Susan. Probably I will take this question. So IATF rules is similar and same across the globe. So it is applicable to any organizations getting certified for the IATF 16949. It is the same across the globe and all the countries. It's not different from other countries to Americas. However, there are some kind of additional requirements which might come from the national and national regulatory boards, like for example, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration from the US, or Transports Canada, or Vehicle Certification Agency in UK, or can be coming from SMMT, which is Society for Motor Manufacturers Traders Association, or VDA QMC from Germany, or IOOB. So there might be additional requirements from the IATF rules. There might be something, but it won't be. It will be similar across the globe, so there won't be any difference in that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Naveen. Thanks for that explanation. Just as a reminder, to submit your questions, we have a Q&A tab on the bottom of your screen, the fifth tab over. So we do have other questions coming in. Should all automotive companies abide by and follow the 6th edition rules of IATF 16949? Alex, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, I will take that one. Yes, the answer is clear and crisp. The answer is yes. We have to be fulfilled and to be compliant to the Rule 6 from January 1st, 2025. There was no compromise. Every single audit being planned and conducted after the timeline, January 1st, 2025, must be according to the Rule 6. So naturally, the preparation stage has been already started from the Q4, more or less. So I would deeply hope organizations which have carried the IATF certification should be, aware of this timeline and then prepare to be ready to be compliant to these Rule 6. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Alex. Okay, another question coming in, and a reminder, the fifth tab over is for the Q&A to submit your questions. So what are the implications or penalties if automotive companies do not implement all of the IATF 6th edition rule changes by January 2025? Naveen, you want to take that one?
Yes, Susan, definitely. I will take this question. So I would say there are no penalties, but there would be kind of complications. Why I say there is no penalties, nobody is going to charge you, but definitely there will be complications. Complications can differ. Like, for example, let us say that there are new rules coming in, so new regulations coming in. And if the organization, let us say there is a certified organization not implementing the system, that might cause a kind of major nonconformities, right? So there is a high risk of getting a lot of major nonconformities in that case. In sometimes, if maybe the system is not been implemented or the organization is not following the new rules and changes in the new rules, in that case, if the major nonconformities can also, there's a high risk of going for a decertification and loss of certification. So that is the high risk. So if you ask me about the penalties, there are no direct penalties, but yes, of course, it has a huge impact of getting decertified or losing the certificate because of not implementing the IATF rules 6. So it is always better for organizations to start implementing the system in the coming months. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, excellent, Naveen. Another question that has just come in, am I to understand that IATF certification can now be obtained by companies manufacturing aftermarket parts?
Let me take this question, Susan. The answer is clearly, absolutely yes. Actually, IATF has the aftermarket parts banned for the certification in the Rule 6 times. But IATF utilized the chance by the end of last year, December 1st, they lift up the ban already by revising the sanction interpretation of the Rules 5. So you can go to the IATF website you can pull that sanction interpretation number 7. It's gonna be the topics. You can see IATF cross out the aftermarket from the rules. So it means now we has been already given the chances to be go to the certifying the company producing the aftermarket parts. And Rule 6 is kind of carry over the sanction interpretation as always. They put into the Rule 6 eligibility section in the clause number 1. They use the wording, the terminology replacement parts now. If you go to the detail of the term and definition section number 10 of the Rule 6, it gave you the explanation, what is the replacement parts. So the answer is absolutely yes. The aftermarket parts was eligible to be certified to be the IATF 16949 compliance. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Alex. Okay, great. We have more questions coming in. And again, the tab on the bottom of your screen, fifth tab over. Can we receive a copy of the presentation? Yes, today's session is being recorded, and you will receive the recording and the presentation. Here's another question. Is it mandatory to certify IATF 16949 certification, which includes knee of scope, is carried out at a sister concern company? Naveen or Alex, you want to take that?
Probably Alex, you can take
I
it.
tried. Okay, yeah, I tried to answer these questions. I'm not very sure what is the knee of scope. I believe there was some of interactions between your company and your sister concerned company. I believe there was we need to make a kind of clarification. What is the support? What is the relation? What is the dynamic between you and your sister company here mentioned? If your sister company really providing the support, kind of remote support location to your side, then that part of the company must be a part of the certification scope. That is mandatory. That's the means of the mandatory. I would say, hopefully I answered the question. If there was not directly supporting to the operation to your company as a part of the integrity of the operation to be in compliance to 16949, then most likely you can just waive that part of the certification from your scope of certification. Hopefully I answered the question.
Thanks. Thank you, Alex. It looks like we have a few more minutes. So we have another question. We'll take this as the last question. If production schedule does not include a process to be audited, do we notify the auditor prior to CA so the audit schedule can be modified? Who would like to take that question?
Okay, probably I can take it, Alex, if you... Oh, you want to take it? Please go ahead. Please.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so production schedule, okay, so when we look into the client interaction mapping, there are processes which are defined in the client mapping, right? The clients are expected to send the information to the auditor, the lead auditor, the client map, the process interaction mapping. If that production scheduling has been included in the process mapping, that needs to be audited. You cannot exclude it. For example, you say that this is not applicable for the IATF, still it's expected to be audited. So the only tolerance given in the IATF Rules 6 book is, you can split the production processes, not the production scheduling, because the production scheduling is a process by itself under the quality management system, and that is mandated to be audited in every audit if that has been declared in the process map. If you say that you are going to, you don't want to get it audited, no, it won't be accepted by the certification body. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Naveen. Well, thank you, Naveen and Alex. We had a great session today and lots of interaction and dialogue, lots of great questions. So thanks everyone for participating today. As mentioned, today's session is recorded and we will be sharing the recording soon after the event. Also, don't forget to stay on for just a minute or so to answer a few questions. We really value your feedback and comments regarding today's event. And also, don't forget to visit our website, www.tufsu.com, to learn more about changes in the 6th edition rules of IATF 16949 and what it means for your certification. So thanks again for joining, and please stay on just a few minutes for a few questions. So we'll just give a couple minutes here for each question. Was today's webinar content on changes in the 6th edition rules of IATF 16949 and what it means for your certification relevant and helpful to your job. Okay, moving on. What's today's webinar content on changes in the 6th edition rules of IATF and what it means for your certification relevant and helpful to your job? Okay, well, that was the first one. And we'll go to the next. Overall on a scale, we'll go back. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate today's webinar? From very dissatisfied, satisfied, neutral, or satisfied. Move on to the next one. Are you interested in receiving, we'll go to the next one. Are you interested in receiving a quote for IATF 16949 certification? Yes or no? And are you interested in attending TÜV-SÜD's training? Let's see, our relative training course. Maybe we could go back to that question. The second party auditor training. Okay, it looks like our survey and poll questions. Thank you so much again for joining. Great job, Naveen and Alex, and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.